Hey comic fans, Dave here at Ground Zero. I hope you're having a great weekend. Now, what I'm here to talk to you about today is hot comics. I'm talking those speculator-driven books that are expensive right out of the gate. First day of release. So we're going to take a brief exploration of the anatomy of a hot comic and talk about how it relates to a book that's coming out this very upcoming week. Now, every comic fan knows the pain of going into their local shop. Maybe they're looking for the latest issue of a book they always follow, or maybe it's a brand new title they're looking forward to because they know it's going to be awesome. But it's not there. It's already sold out. And in fact, they get online to find a copy and it's going for stupid money. What causes this to happen? And frankly, why don't comic shops do a better job of getting all the books you want to read and having them on their shelves? Well, comic shops are an economic macrocosm, and we all know economics involve supply and demand. But in the little microcosm world of comic shops, there's basically three factors that figure into it. Now, initially, it's just two: people who want to read comics and people who want to sell them those comics. Let's say you're looking for the latest issue of Tank Girl, or you need the latest issue of Bloodshot, or any Valiant book, because they're all good. Well, you're part of that group, people who want to read comics. This group is pretty finite, it's pretty manageable, it's a good system. The other group, of course, is people who want to sell you those comics, and at this point, it is simply your local comic shop. It's a great system. It works, it's efficient, nobody misses out. But alas, all comics are not created equal. Sometimes comics get a lot more popular, and you get a book like Batman 100 that everybody wants, or Walking Dead, because who doesn't love zombies? Or maybe it's anything with the words Donny Cates on the title. Well, at that point, everybody has told their friends, and their friends are like, that sounds awesome, I'll get a copy too. And you get a much larger group. In this case, people who want to read the comic books. It's a lot bigger group, but that's okay because your local comic shop knows this. They know Batman 100 is going to sell a lot of copies. They know Donny Cates is hugely popular, so they order more copies, and every one of these people gets that book to read. We're all happy. That is until surprises start to occur. So, how does that happen? Well, let's talk about this book, Batman Damned. When I ordered Batman Damned, I ordered a pretty decent number of copies. I love Brian Azzarello. I think he's a great writer. I knew Lee Bermejo would turn in fantastic art. He's always good. Plus, it was one of the early Black Label titles, so it was dark, gritty, mature Batman. And I knew that would have it on it. So the book comes in, I take it in the back and I read it, and I thought it was pretty good. I liked it. I actually missed the obvious. Really, because it wasn't that obvious. But that's okay either way. I missed it, yay me. So I put all these books on the stands, and you know what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened at all. These books just sat there. Nobody wanted to buy them. It's an oversized book. People are like, it's not going to fit in my comic boxes. I think I'll just wait. I was begging people, guys, this is a great book. You should try it. No go. Well, that night, the news broke. You know the news I'm talking about, and it broke big. Okay, I'll stop right there for you to make all the jokes and puns you want. Okay, you done? Either way, it broke big, and the very next day, I had a crowd at my front door waiting for me when I opened up the store. Now, since I had a fair amount of copies of this book, I put them all on the shelf, cover price, but I put a little sign saying, please, one per customer. That way, more books could get in the hands of more people who wanted them. That didn't work at all. Everybody was just mad. I don't want one copy. I want 3 copies, or 5 copies, or 10 copies, or hell, just give me all of your copies of this book. Do you know what this thing's going for on eBay? Okay, so that didn't necessarily work. It's surprises. And these surprises are usually things that the comic shop and really the audience themselves don't know about when we're ordering this book. It could be the first appearance of a character. It could be the death of a character. We all know what happened when Batman hit with the designer and Punchline. We especially know what happened when Hell on Earth hit, because nobody expected this book to have anything that very many people would want. We thought the audience would be small. All of a sudden, it was huge. Well, that's when you get into a couple of factors. For one thing, you get into that third group I was talking about, and that is the fear of missing out group. Bleeding Cool writes an article talking about how great this book is. Their friends are telling them, you've got to read this book. It's got this brand new character in it. Or they just hear the hype. And so all of a sudden, that audience has added so many more people that maybe otherwise wouldn't be there. But they're there already because the book has heat. Well, once that book has heat, the comic shop doesn't have enough copies, the price starts to go up. Well, once that's the factor, we get a second group that wants to sell you your comics. And that's these guys. what they call speculators. They know they can buy a book off the stands for $4 or $5 or $8 and flip it. They can flip it for $20 or $50. These kind of things happen all the time. Batman Damned all of a sudden was going for $50, $60 online. Obviously, you come in and you buy them from me for $6, $7, flip them for $50, you've made a pretty healthy profit. That has become a big part of our fad, of our audience, of our hobby. We just have to live with it. Now, Ground Zero is all about people who read comics. That's just a conscious choice we made. In fact, several decades ago when we opened up, there was another shop in town that really specialized in speculator items. In fact, it was called Hot Cards and Comics. We deliberately took the opposite tack. We love the art form of comics. We love people who read them. But alas, that's not always the case. Now that brings us to this book that's coming out this upcoming week. It's called The Last Ronin. Now this is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles spinoff. When we ordered this book back in June, we knew, it was done by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. They haven't worked together for a very long time. It's the original creators and they've kind of gone their separate ways. Plus, it had a really cool story. Because it's not all 4 turtles, it's just one, because the other 3 are dead. So it's one turtle, the last Ronin, wandering in a post-apocalyptic New York, trying to avenge the death of his comrades. Michael and I looked at this and thought, this is great. It's a great story. I want to read this. You're going to want to read this story. So we ordered a decent number of copies, especially considering that it was an oversized book, just like Batman Damned. Those aren't as popular, and it was $8.99. But despite those factors, we ordered several times as many copies of The Last Ronin as we normally order of the regular Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book. Everything's fine, right? Well, think back to June. What was happening in June? Everything was happening in June. We were just reopening after being shut down for the pandemic. Protests and riots were starting up. Frankly, nobody knew what to do. We didn't know how many people were even going to come back into the comic shop. That was very much an issue. So we were normally pretty conservative on the stuff we did. We felt like we ordered plenty of this book. Well, there is in the industry what they call the FOC date. That's the final order cutoff. We order the book several months in advance, but by the FOC we can supposedly get a more guaranteed number of copies if we increase the order. Well, by the time the FOC rolled around, we'd had a few people come in that weren't normal Turtles fans and said, that looks great. I think I'll add that to my saver. So even though we still had enough copies, we got on and thought, yes, we'll order a few more. Everybody was going to be happy. We were going to have plenty of copies. This would be fine. Well, the last couple of weeks, we knew something was up. I was getting calls from everywhere, certainly from Tyler, outside of Tyler, and in some cases outside of the state saying, do you have this book yet? When are you getting this book? When are you going to get it? How many copies are you going to have? How many copies can I get? Well, that was a dead giveaway. Something was absolutely up. Sure enough, we get notification we're not getting all the copies we ordered. In fact, no comic shop in America is getting their full order of this book. They kind of dropped the ball a little bit. They were dealing with all sorts of issues. Paper, the oversize, everything made it where they had to set their print run before they knew how big the demand was going to be. Well, once the word gets out that the demand is bigger than the supply, that pulls all the speculators into the book. So all of a sudden, you don't just have your regular audience for the book. You've got your regular audience, plus the fear of missing out people, plus all the speculators that want to buy up as many copies as they can. It is, as we like to say, a feeding frenzy. So what's going to happen here at this store? Now wherever you're at, every store handles it a little differently. For us, we finally learned just how many copies we were getting. It was definitely not as many as we ordered. We've got enough copies to handle all the savers. So if you came in and filled out a saver and said, I want this book, no problem. You're getting it. Cover price. Now, this book already on eBay, several days ahead of its release, is going for $35 to $40. That's what the frenzy has done. But if you put it on saver over the last few weeks, now we can't take any more at this point, but if you put it on the last few weeks and stuff, or the last few months, or what have you, no problem, you've got a copy in your saver at cover price. Not only that, if you were on saver for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and you didn't know about this book, or you knew about it and you thought, well, it's no big deal, I'll just pick one up off the shelf, or you forgot, I got you covered. You'll have a copy in your saver if you want it. You can throw it back if you don't. Let's face it, nobody's going to throw it back. Still, we've got you covered for that. After that, we only had a few copies left. Now one of them's going to our friends over at Squatch Comics. Squatch Comics is in a neighboring town. They just celebrated their 1-year anniversary. That's awesome. They actually made it through the worst year ever in the comics industry. So we're happy to see that. But you know, they struggle like everybody is struggling. So we're sending them one of our copies of this book for them to auction off. Guys, if you're in Palestine, go in there and don't just try to get a bargain. Show them your support. You're glad they're there. Show them by bidding stupid money on this book. I'm not a big fan of people paying stupid money for comics, but when it's for a good cause, like keeping a local shop open, go for it. You get a book you want, everybody's happy. The last few of those books will go behind the counter, not at cover price, people. It just can't be helped. However, if you say to me, but Dave, I just want to read this book, we say, great, we love that. We love readers. Now, they knew they dropped the ball on this. They knew there was going to be bigger demand. So they've already been working on a second printing. The bad news is the numbers for the second printing, we have to have turned in before the first printing even hit the stands, before day of release, before the mob descends on us and yells at us for not having enough copies of this book. We ordered what we think is a pretty good amount. So if you come in on day of release and you're disappointed because it's not there, you didn't have it on Savor, you can order and pay for a copy of the second printing. It's supposed to arrive first week of December. Not only can you pay for it, not only can you buy it, have it reserved for you, we'll discount it 15%. We love readers, and so if you're willing to do that and you're willing to wait until December, we'll give you a pretty good deal. You'll get to read a really cool book. Now, understand, this is the first issue of a 5-issue series, so the second issue hopefully will be coming out shortly around that time. So we got you covered there. Now, frankly, I expect the second printing to sell out. I really feel like this is going to have a third printing, maybe even a fourth. The demand is going to be that high. Now, I'm not a big fan of just speculator-driven books, books that have a particular character. Those tend to cool off and even out. But in this case, it's not just the fear of missing out, people. Everybody wants to read this book. It sounds like a great story. So you do what you feel is best. If you want to pay the extra money for a first printing, go for it. We're not here to judge. You just want to read the book, you'll have that option in the second printing, or if you miss that, the third printing probably when they do it. Either way, there's always options at your local comic shop, wherever it may be. Now I get messages sometimes from people who watch these videos that aren't in Tyler. Sometimes they're not even in Texas. Well, if that's the case, thanks, guys. We love you, man. We appreciate you watching these. And if that's the case, give a shout out to your local shop in our comments section. We'd love to hear who they are. We'd love to hear it, especially if you appreciate them and they're taking good care of you. If they're doing something different, that's fine. That's great. That's what it's for. Either way, wherever you're at, support your local shop because, guys, this is 2020. It's been a tough year. So if you walk in and they've got a copy, a few bucks more, don't yell at them. Realize you have an option of a second printing, or you have an option of picking up a book that looks like it could be an absolute classic. Whatever you decide to do, guys, stay in the hobby, keep reading books. Man, your comic shop cannot exist without you. We appreciate you. I'm sure if you're somewhere else, they appreciate you too. So that's what's happening with The Last Ronin, and hopefully that gives you a little better insight into just exactly what makes a book all of a sudden explode and come out with a flurry of bleeding cool articles about how crazy this is. Guys, we appreciate you taking a moment to watch this little explanation. If you have questions locally, always I'm here. You know where you can find me. You can always send me a message or do it in the comments section. Wherever you're at, remember, it's not about having what you want. It's about wanting what you have. Guys, I hope your weekend is as good as mine. I hope your upcoming week is at least as good as mine. Wherever you're at, thanks a lot. Have a great day.